I'm joined by my friend Richard Scott. Hello, Richard.
And we missed each other last week. Great to be back.
Yes, indeed. And to talk about medicine stuff, but I can say very excitedly, the magazine comes out very, very shortly, and I'm super excited because you've got a double page article in the December issue.
Well, thank you for giving me the space. And yes, that's going to be the template from now on. And yeah, it allows me to get my teeth into some medical issues a little bit more than before. So I'm very grateful.
Do you know what was really fun? So I get the article from you. I put it into the thing that I work on. The number of spelling mistakes because of medical terms that my little poor computer's thinking, what is that? So I'm having to Google every single word thinking, is that a correct spelling? Because I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
To be fair, I'm a good speller, so it will be correct.
Well, it is every time, but it's more, is that right? Is that a word? I have this from Sherry Seligson on Science or Anne-Laure Jackson on Century Health. I have to Google it and think, is that correct? I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Well, I have on the other side of the court, I have my dictionary, big dictionary next to my bed, because you read articles and these clever people put a word and you think, check it. Don't just pass it thinking, never mind, I could understand the rest of it. No, just have a look at the word. So, I'm using a dictionary a lot.
It's fine. No, your spellings are great, but it's more, is that correct? I want to clear it, but I don't want to clear something that might be a typo just in case, because next time it'll come back again.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, it's fine. It's good fun. Right. Where are we going this evening?
So, well, I mentioned we missed last week. I think both of us were unavailable, but I was unavailable because I had two joint things. One was a school reunion, which I'd set up for my class, who finished secondary school in 1978. So we're now 65 or 66. And the second one was, unfortunately, it came bang in the middle of a worship conference. Lots of great musicians, and most of the audience are again worship musicians themselves. So enjoying the professionals, if you like, on stage. And so I had to leave the worship conference halfway through, but I got to go to the school reunion, which is terrific. And I'd like to sort of merge the two because there's a couple of learning points which I've come across. So that's where we're going. If that's all right.
That's fine. What was the conference called? The worship.
It's called Mission Worship. It's in Eastbourne every November, in King's Church, Eastbourne, which is a big, or the King's Centre. It's a big church, biggest church in Eastbourne, probably warehouse-like church. Very good. Graham Kendrick, Jake Isaacs this year. I hadn't seen him before. Very good. Lucy Grimble, always terrific. Yeah, just a good range of singers. Becky and Nick Drake. Again, I hadn't actually seen, but I was aware of. It's nice to put a face to a name as well, to see, that's what they do. Yeah, it's great. And obviously learn the odd new song as well. So, it was very good.
Excellent. And then the other question
has
completely gone from my head, so carry on.
Well, let me start off, and when it comes up, you can come in. But so I want to bring, as I say, as usual, something up to date. And the school reunion this time round, there we are now, 65, 66 years old. 14 of us met for a drink, and then 11 came for the curry afterwards. And it's lovely to see how people were doing. There's 3 guys I hadn't seen since 1978. 2 are living in the US. One had just come back to England 4 days previously. There was a lovely moment, actually, just before we got going. The barman, because I got there first, said, "So why are you setting this thing up? What's going on?" He said, "You're meeting school friends. Why?" I said, "Look, at our age, because we're still alive." Which, as a younger man, he understood. And, you've got to celebrate these things. Anyway, as we chatted when we had the reunion, loads of good memories emerged and stuff that mattered to people, if you like, that was formative in their upbringing. And at the end, we could look back on a great evening. Yeah, we were really grateful for each other and grateful for having attended Kingston Grammar School all those years ago in Surrey. But as I said, I came from this worship conference in Eastbourne, and the theme of the conference, because I want to put these two together, the theme of the conference was our Christian heritage. In other words, being grateful to the spiritual ancestors who had left their mark on our lives, and of course, the need to pass it on and encourage and train up youngsters following behind us. And there's very much a sense that today we're part of a very long tradition of believers, as Graham Kendrick, who's 10 years older than me, the great singer-songwriter, reminded us. The songs we sing aren't just songs, but they're part of this tradition. And what we produce, or what they produce, because I'm not a songwriter, what people produce, we pass on as a baton to the next generation, having received a baton of songs, if you like, from the great singer-songwriters of the past. Well, that brings me nicely back to my school reunion, because as a Christian, whilst I was grateful for the teaching and the camaraderie and the sport at Kingston Grammar School, far and away the most important legacy I received was of faith. because years before I arrived, a chemistry master, Ron, set up the Christian Union, a small camp initially with two boys and two masters. By the time I arrived, bear in mind it's not that large a school, maybe 500 kids, 100 out of 500 every year went to Devon or Cornwall for the CU camp, not because they were Christians, because it was fun, as Christian camps should be, football, swimming. In the evening you had to listen to the talk. Well, I never did for the first 2.5 years, until, like the singing, to be fair, never listened to the talk, until halfway through my third year. Clearly it must have been a strong voice in my head, God saying, he said, listen to the talk tonight. So I did, and duly responded and became a Christian. Now, many years later, having walked away and then returned to faith in my mid-20s, I was able to go back to Ron, the chemistry master's house, to say goodbye to him. He was dying from Parkinson's disease, and he just about was able to respond, and his wife was grateful. I just wanted to say, thank you, Ron. You were courageous. You stuck to your convictions. He was only third chemistry master out of 4 in the school, despite the fact he was the most educated. There was lots of skeptics amongst other masters and some of the boys, but he changed my life and hundreds of others. That was my heritage, and I was grateful for it. And it struck me, going back to the conference, that Ron was one of those from a previous generation who passed on the baton of faith, a spiritual giant, if you like, on whose shoulders I stand. And the implication for all of us and your listeners today is clear, not only for the older ones like me, but also for young worship leaders like Jake Isaacs, who played at this conference. As he said at the conference, we all have a joint responsibility to receive what we've received from others and to use it well. Don't be careless with what you've received. It cost our spiritual ancestors plenty to get involved themselves and hand it on to us. We must play our roles, likewise stepping up, standing firm and standing proud in faith, not shirking our roles. And it won't be easy. Which brings me back to my own church. The last couple of weeks, I got a friend of mine, Tony, to speak. He comes from Cambridge. He spoke at my fellowship. And I then built on what he spoke the week after. And he spoke on A Tale of Two Cities, Babylon and the New Jerusalem. Cleverly done. Babylon, the greatest empire of its time, which overran Judah and Jerusalem in 586 BC, one of those few dates that I can remember from the Bible, 586 BC. Babylon wasn't just a physical empire, but a spiritual empire. The physical one was short-lived, only 49 years after that. The Medes and Persians took them over. But the spiritual empire is still going. We live in a Babylonian, me, materialistic, anything goes empire today. Little gods these days, he worshipped lots of gods. Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, little gods, science, money, fame, etc. All these things still rule. And the spiritual kingdom continues, but it will be destroyed, of course, when Jesus comes again. But till then, it's going strong in our culture. And Tony's challenge was this: which empire are you in? Which empire are we in? And even if you're pretty sure you're in the New Jerusalem, it's very easy to put one foot in the Babylonian camp. Have a foot in each camp, if you like. And I preached on that the next week on Daniel and how he and his 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as the song goes, they were brutally challenged to let go of their principles and live like other Babylonians, but they didn't. There were some good things about the Babylonian culture. They were happy with those, but there were red lines. For them, dietary, not going to eat your food, pork probably, and I'm not going to drink alcohol every day, and I'm certainly not worshipping other gods. And my challenge, building on what Tony said, was to embrace the good stuff in our culture, live well, and be good examples to others. Don't just parrot the world, but be clear what belongs to Caesar and what belongs to God, and to worship him and him alone. And having done so, we can then, in this day and age, be like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and dare I say my chemistry master, Ron, sticking strong to the faith, and then we can pass it on to the next generation. So there we are, not a medical message today, more of a sort of, an encouragement. What we've received, that's great. Pass it on and stick tight. Because you don't stick tight to the faith, you haven't got anything to pass on. So stick tight and pass it on.
Which, of course, makes me think of Hebrews chapter 12, the people of faith that Scripture accounts. And we talk about the run the race, and the part after that is about the fact that the crowd is cheering us on. Well, the crowd isn't just random people; it's people of faith much earlier in time, Moses and Noah and Elijah, and so on and so forth. And it's good to know there are people cheering us on.
Yeah. And equally, I love the fact that Jake Isaacs, who can't be much more than about, early to mid 30s, is saying even at his stage, he's got a responsibility to look after the youth. So his drummer was a 19-year-old boy who he wanted to encourage. And apparently Isaacs himself started off at 15 being offered by Graham Kendrick, do you want to come play drums for me one evening? What, for you? Yeah. You come play drums for me. Why? Wasn't necessarily because he was the best drummer. And maybe Kendrick was short of a drummer. I don't know. But the fact is, he deliberately said, this is a guy, I want to help him and I'm going to bring him forward. And ultimately, Isaac's left the drums. Now he sings, he plays guitar very nicely, etc. But he was helped on by the previous generation. And how important that is for all of us, maybe to look, especially as we're getting older, who can we encourage? Who do we need to support? Deliberately, not just, well, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. No, let's go looking for these guys and girls to encourage and support.
Which is really, really important. Actually, this does maybe come back to medical stuff, because in order for us to be well-rounded people, we need to have a good diet physically. That's important. We know that. Drinking water and vegetables and fruit. We also need to be exercising when we can. That's important. There are all these parts that make it up, but also mental health, which affects everything. And we know that medicine is now far more conscious, not it wasn't before, but even more conscious of the importance of that. And actually encouraging someone, giving someone an opportunity, they're going to feel 10 feet tall. Now, I don't know Graham Kendrick, never met him. I've seen him a few times. He just seems like a pretty lovely, humble guy who probably doesn't care all that much about, oh, look at what I've done. I think he cares about God, which is why he's still so amazing leading worship.
Story about him. I remember he was playing at one of our the camps, Detling, which is a sort of Christian camp, which was in Kent, where I am now. And years ago, Detling was there, and Graham Kendrick was there one year. And one of the guitarists from his band came over, and we were just chatting away. And we said, "Oh, where's Graham?" He said, "Oh, you'll find him washing up. He'll be washing up for our camp." Very humble guy, absolutely getting stuck in it as a normal person, despite being the biggest name in that entire conference. Now he'll be washing up. And I thought that was very telling.
But it is important that we don't forget what we do, who we are, and where we've come from, in order to give other people opportunities. And that's where Christian faith is so utterly far beyond countercultural. Because when I was leading worship, there was someone who was a grade 8 pianist, utterly excellent, rubbish in worship, because all they could do is play the dots, and that was it. And that's fine. And there's no criticism of that. But in a church context where you want to kind of sing worship songs, you might want to drop a verse or go to that chorus. She didn't know how to do it. I'd have to write it out beforehand. Can you tell me what we're going to do? No, I might just go to a different chorus. Well, I need to write it out. So the fact we have a skill isn't necessarily mean we're the right person. Sunday school teachers, so many people from school in Sunday school classes, probably shouldn't be, actually, having worked in children's work in churches. Sometimes it's the worst people possible. Well, we need to do this, we need to do that. This is what I do in school. This isn't school, this is church. And it's sometimes we forget that it's the calling that's important, not our experience, because God isn't ever going to be saying, right, you're a good, nearly qualified GP. That means you can go there. He's going to say, Richard, what's your heart? Do you want to serve me? How can I make you more like me? Is what God would say. And I think that's what I find beautiful about the Christian faith. It's not about what skills have you got, what can you do. It's do you want to say yes to Jesus, because he can take all the things you thought you were rubbish at, and he'll make them into pure gold.
No, nicely put. I totally agree.
I remember what I was going to say. I was born in 78.
Oh, right. Okay. You were born in 78 when I finished.
I was 77.
School. 77.
77.
Yeah. How about that? No.
I know. Sorry. Jo was 71, my wife, 1971. So she's a bit older. But yeah, 1977 is when the Andy B arrived in the world.
Wow. A good year.
Very good year. Lots of good things happened. Yeah, but the thing about your school reunion, it is important to remember, okay, humor aside, while we're still alive, but actually there's a lot of depth and truth in that, of while we are alive, we need to do things. I read something recently by Dr. Michael Youssef, who we play on our station. I think he's 84, something like that. He's
want to be about that, yes.
He's something like that. And his statement, because he's now stepping down from leading the church in America, is one of his sons he's going to take on, is now is the time. And you're thinking the next line is to have a rest. No. Now is the time to put my foot down on the accelerator, because I want to take as many people to heaven as possible with me. So now is the time to speed up. And I like that
attitude. Well, it's refreshing, because it's not like, because interestingly, my the guy opposite me in the curry house, one of my best school friends, he said, "Oh, so what's Heather doing? My wife? She's training a fast track ordination to be a vicar." And he said, And he's not a Christian, this guy, even slightly. He said, "Oh, I'm absolutely in awe. You know, most people just take it easy when they retire. I'm in awe. I'm in awe." I said, "Well, that's very kind of you to be in awe, but you know, she's interested in it. She wants to do it, and you know, she's got the energy, and off she goes." And he just thought, "Well, that's not what people do when they retire. Yeah, it's what people do when they listen to God." If that's what he's saying to somebody else, it'll be a different message. But that was her message, and it's not the message for me, but it's the message for her. Fantastic.
This is the thing. We need to live while we're alive. I've used this phrase with you before. We need to live while we're alive, because otherwise we'll wait until such time as we can live, at which point we're not going to be living, because it's a continuation. I knew a guy, he was I think he was like a professional cyclist at some point, set up a bike shop in Wolverhampton. He died of a heart attack whilst out on a cycle in his, I think, mid-60s, late 60s or something. But he was living life to the max. Absolutely full bore, still doing all the things he used to do. His heart gave up late 60s, but he lived his life full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think as Christians, it's not to say we can't have a rest. I mean, Jesus took time out from time to time, although he was usually praying at that point. But, you know, we have a rest, but absolutely, you know, remember, we still have a calling. As you've said before, being retired with a Y, but after the T, you know, God gives us tyres, and those tyres are no good sitting in a garage. You know, they're there to run the car, aren't they? Mm.
Absolutely. But I love that you had your school reunion, which is impressive, because over that length of a time, I mean, you've got some guys in the US. Well, that's not a surprise. Australia, South America, who knows? Over 40 years, people tend not to be half a mile from the school gate.
Oh, sure. It was lovely to get them back, because in fact, lots of people who are abroad couldn't come. Okay, but at least two did, which was nice. And yeah, I was encouraged. It was very good.
Most impressive is the fact you're still involved in any way with any of the people that you went to school with. I don't know a single person I was at school with.
Yeah, it's one of those things with the biology boys, as we call ourselves. There's about 6 of us out of 17 who did biology A level. Yeah, we 6 of us have stuck together, and that it's nice. We tend to see each other twice a year, so yeah, it's encouraging.
Mm. It's really good, but I think there's so much depth in living while we're alive, because we either think, oh, well, you know, let's wait until retirement, then we'll do this, then we'll do that. But you're missing out on life. You're missing out on the joy of living today.
It's fun. Being a Christian should be fun. Yeah, there's hard work at times, but it should be fun. And yeah, that's certainly my experience.
Yeah, the Step Forward Awards, which I was at recently, loads of fun. It's a Christian Music Award. If you're thinking, what is that talking about? Christian Music Award here in the UK. It's been running 5 years. A guy called O'Neill Dennis set it up, and they celebrate new Christian artists, whether they're singing worship songs for church or songs that perhaps aren't for that context. But there was an awful lot of laughter. There was an awful lot of fun. There was a tremendous outpouring of joy. And I just think, you know, this is a glimpse of heaven right here.
That's how it should be. That's fantastic.
So it was good. Right. Richard, thank you, sir.
Lovely. Thank you.
If you've not signed up for the article in the magazine, get yourself signed up for a subscription. It'll be delivered to your door. It doesn't cost a lot. You can get it in the UK and the US, with other countries being added on for the subscription at www.puremediathemagazine.com. Puremediathemagazine.com. It's awesome.
And I can say that, okay, obviously I do my article, but I read all the articles, because there's a really good range. It's fun, it's encouraging, and it's beautifully produced.
We do try. Thank you. Right, Richard, I will leave it to the rest of your day, sir, and I will carry on.
Bless you.